Hi everyone, I am your host, Peter Zablocki, and you're listening to History Shorts. I hope everyone's having a great day so far, and thank you for making this show a small part of that. If you'd like to help me out with a small gesture, please leave History Shorts a rating or a review, and click that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. For sources and books used as the basis for these episodes, how to advertise on a show, and other information such as a list of our upcoming guests on the Conversation series, or a link to our Patreon account where you can listen to exclusive episodes not heard here, please visit www.historyshortspodcast.com. You could always shoot me an email at peter@historyshortspodcast.com. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate podcast listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the globe, all in one place. Download Podcast Republic now and take your podcast experience to the next level. Having said all of that, they were never supposed to be in combat, not officially at least. For much of American military history, women served in support roles as medics, clerks, translators, nurses, and officers behind the wire. But wars do not conform to tidy rules, and by the time the United States was deeply entangled in the insurgencies of Iraq and Afghanistan, the line between front and rear had blurred into a single dangerous terrain. In the dusty cities of the Middle East, where cultural norms made it impossible for male soldiers to interact with local women, the military found itself facing a new kind of battlefield challenge. Not one of bullets, but one of boundaries. The answer came in the form of an audacious idea, a quiet revolution, you might say. It was called the Lioness Program. And here is the rest of that story.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Launched in 2003, during the height of the Iraq War, the Lioness Program was born not in Washington boardrooms, but on the ground, among Marines and commanders improvising to meet an impossible situation. In Iraq's deeply conservative tribal culture, male soldiers were forbidden to search, question, or touch Iraqi women during routine security operations. Yet insurgents quickly learned to exploit this blind spot. Women were used as couriers, smugglers, and even suicide bombers, knowing that American forces wouldn't dare check beneath their clothes. Search teams were ordered to let them pass. It was a lethal loophole. So commanders made a radical call: bring in the women. The earliest lionesses were drawn from whatever units could spare them, often from military police, intelligence, or logistical divisions. They were volunteers, told little about what they'll be doing, except that they were needed. Many assumed that they'd be confined to checkpoint duty or base operations. They quickly learned otherwise. The Lioness teams were embedded directly with infantry patrols, often all-male Marine or Army units heading into hostile towns. These were not desk jobs. Lionesses went on house raids, swept villages, searched compounds, and patrolled streets where insurgents might lurk behind every corner. Dressed in the same desert camouflage as their male counterparts, carrying M16s and body armor, they climbed into Humvees and helicopters and walked into the fire. Their job? Search and interact with Iraqi women, respectfully, that is, with cultural sensitivity and without breaking any local taboos. But in practice, the mission was far more dangerous. Lionesses faced IEDs, ambushes, and sniper fire like everyone else. They were in combat zones, though the military, bound by its own ban on women in direct combat roles, hesitated to admit it. One of the earliest and most visible deployments of the Lioness Program came in Ramadi, the capital of Iraq's violent Anbar province. Ramadi in 2004 and 2005 was a city on fire, a hotbed of insurgent activity where American forces faced ambushes and improvised bombs on a daily basis. Into this hell walked women like Sergeant Rebecca Nava, Lance Corporal Shannon Morgan, and Staff Sergeant Randy Ruthick, lionesses attached to infantry squads tasked with high-risk urban sweeps. They were told to stay behind the front line, but in a place like Ramadi, the front line was wherever your boots touched the pavement. During raids, lionesses entered homes moments after the door was kicked down, following heavily armed Marines through alleys and courtyards. Their job was to find and then calm the women inside, to check them for explosives, question them, and gather intelligence, all while remaining respectful of Iraqi customs. But often their presence did more than just fill a tactical gap. It won trust. Mothers spoke to them. Daughters offered names. Intelligence began to flow from sources who would have stayed silent before. And in turn, the lionesses earned the respect of the men that they served beside. At first, there was skepticism. Many infantrymen trained to fight in male-only units were unsure what to make of the female additions. But when they saw them take fire, return it, and then hold their ground, their doubts vanished. The lionesses were not there as tokens. They were real warriors, different in role but not in resolve. Yet the price was high. The nature of the lioness missions, culturally sensitive, technically non-combat, but practically in the line of fire at all times, meant that they operated in a kind of a gray zone. When combat broke out, they had to fight. They had no choice. When units lost men, they grieved. But because they were not officially designated as combat troops, their contributions were often overlooked, their deployments unrecorded in the same way. They had few of the support systems or recognitions given to infantrymen. They returned home in silence. Still, the program grew. It expanded into Afghanistan, where cultural restrictions were even more intense. In rural Pashtun society, interactions between unrelated men and women were not just frowned upon, they could lead to lethal retaliation. Yet the Taliban had long used women to move weapons and money undetected. And once again, the military turned to its secret weapon: women warriors trained to see what others couldn't. By 2009, the military had formally expanded the concept of the Lioness Program into what was then called Female Engagement Teams, or FETs. A more structured evolution of the Lioness Program, meant to combine counterinsurgency with gender-based cultural access. These teams were composed of highly trained female Marines and soldiers who worked with village elders, taught women basic hygiene and education, and gathered intelligence on insurgent movements. They were part peacekeepers, part diplomats, part commandos, and they often succeeded where entire battalions had failed. In villages where men had never dared speak to American soldiers, the women spoke to the lionesses. They shared names, movements, and warnings in Afghanistan as much as they had in the pilot program in Iraq. They invited them into their homes. One lioness recalled an Afghan woman pulling her aside and whispering, "The Taliban meets in that orchard at night." The tip led to a successful strike, and the village spared retaliation. But the lioness story was not just about battlefield utility. It was also about identity. For decades, women in the military had fought for recognition beyond the roles of nurse, typist, or aide. The Lioness Program shattered the illusion that women could not function and thrive in combat zones. It proved what many had long known, that courage was not confined to one gender, and that modern warfare demanded the full talents of a diverse force. Their legacy was cemented not only in their actions, but in their quiet determination to serve with honor despite the contradictions. In 2008, the documentary Lioness, directed by Meg McLagan and Daria Sommers, helped bring national attention to the women who had gone to war without ever being officially at war. The film followed a group of Marines, including Sergeant Major Rosemary Bryant Mariner and Corporal Shannon Morgan, as they recounted their experiences in Iraq. Their voices were raw, proud, and often bitter. They had served, fought, and bled, and they wanted to be recognized not as exceptions, but as just real soldiers. In 2013, after years of debate and mounting evidence from programs like the Lionesses, the Department of Defense lifted the ban on women in combat roles. It was a landmark decision, driven in part by what the Lionesses had proven on the ground, that women could do the job, and had been doing it for years. The myth of the non-combat woman soldier had been exposed. Today, the story of the Lioness Program is still not widely taught in military textbook or history classes for that matter. But among those who served, especially in the chaotic, uncertain years of Iraq and Afghanistan, the Lionesses are remembered with admiration and awe. They were trailblazers not because they broke barriers loudly, but because they quietly stepped through them, one patrol at a time. Thanks for listening.
Ready to level up? Chumba Casino is your playbook to fun. It's free to play with no purchase necessary. Enjoy hundreds of casino-style games like bingo, slots, and solitaire anytime, anywhere with fresh releases every week. Whether you're at home or on the go, let Chumba Casino bring the excitement to you. Plus, get free daily login bonuses and a free welcome bonus. Join now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Play Chumba Casino today. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. T&Cs apply.